oh, it is now, yes. Chancellor of the Exchequer, Your Excellencies, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of First, I'm delighted to welcome you to this, the 11th consecutive presentation of the Award for Responsible Capitalism. A lot has happened since we met here in the year 2000, and the Chancellor of the Exchequer presented our first winner with the award. In those days, people thought that perhaps we had a slightly quaint notion, but under the leadership of Lord Darendorf, our first chairman, people began to realize that there was something in this responsible capitalism idea. If ever an idea's time has come, it has come now. We desperately need people to practice responsible capitalism if we're going to preserve the very concept and the civilization on which it depends. And we are delighted to have the Chancellor of the Exchequer, although a slightly different one, with us this evening. And it gives me enormous pleasure to ask Lord Hurd of Westwell, better known to many of you as Douglas Hurd, former distinguished Foreign Secretary, now, of course, gone to far higher things as Chairman of the First Advisory Council, to say a word or two and to introduce George Osborne. Douglas.
Patrick, Chancellor, Your Excellencies, my Lords, ladies and gentlemen, well, this is the high point, really, of the year for us at First. We're busy through the year, and we do our publications, and they're thriving. We help the Foreign Office to entertain foreign guests, distinguished foreign guests, and that's thriving. And but this is the climax, really, because this is the 11th occasion on which the prize has been given for responsible capitalism. And we're very lucky indeed, and we're very grateful to you, George, for sparing the time. It's usually called in your crowded schedule, but it's really a very truthful remark as far as you're concerned. In your crowded schedule, you found time to come to Marlborough House for this event. It shows that you actually believe in the cause which this embodies. You believe in responsible capitalism, and your courage, I think, is a great comfort and inspiration to people in this country at this difficult time. So thank you very much for all that, and I now ask.
Yes, we're now going to have Lord Woolf, who is the chairman of our judges, succeeded Lord Darendorf some 4 years ago, and Lord Woolf, marvellous chairman, the best of judges, was Lord Chief Justice, so how can you do better than that? And he is now going to announce the names of the winners before the Chancellor presents the awards and gives his speech.
Well, it's very nice for me to be able to do some judging again, because as far as the country is concerned, I'm statutory senile. However, this was an extremely difficult task that the judges were faced with, and I was indeed fortunate that I had the most distinguished panel of judges to help me, many of whom I'm glad to see here today. And with their help, we came to the conclusion, among all the very many distinguished nominees, that the two who deserved the prizes that we award were, first of all, for the general prize, it's Mr. Michael Bremans, the chairman of Ecova International. That is the first prize. And the other prize goes, which is the prize which is known as the Darendorf Prize, who was my predecessor as chairman. And the winner of that prize is Mikkel Vestergaard Fransen.
My lords, ladies and gentlemen, it's very good to be here. Good to be here with so many people from the Foreign Office as well. They're all huddled in a corner over there. But, you know, the Chancellor gets a chance to see how the other half live in these times of austerity. But it is very good to be here. It's good to be back at these awards. I came here as Shadow Chancellor, and Patrick very kindly said, we will have you back as Chancellor, and I wasn't taking anything for granted, but it's good to be able to come back here tonight. I don't know whether we're going to hear more about the award winners. That wasn't my job tonight, but I can say that Ecover is the company which makes, among other things, washing up liquid, which is used in number 11 Downing Street. So we don't have a royal seal or anything like that, but it's used very effectively, and even not just in number 11, but in the flat in number 11, which is the place that is most sacred. And the other award winner, I think, does fantastic work with malarial bed nets and other things in that sphere. And one of the things I'm proudest of, but actually one of the more difficult decisions we've taken, believe it or not, has been to increase the UK aid budget and to support the effort being taken to eliminate malaria. So they are two good winners of these awards. I congratulate these distinguished judges, Douglas Hurd and Harry Wolff, and of course Patrick and Rupert, who brings us all together for these occasions. And actually, Patrick is absolutely right in what he said. I think the case for responsible capitalism has never needed to be heard more than it needs to be heard today. And it was a great example of foresight to have set up these awards and some, whatever it was, 11 years ago, at a time when perhaps people thought, well, what's this argument you're trying to make? Never in my political lifetime has the argument about the free market been raging more strongly. And of course, the financial crisis around the world has shaken people's faith in the ability of free markets to deliver prosperity for populations and to deliver rewards to society in a fair way. And the sovereign debt crisis that has followed it has also shaken people's confidence in government as the answer. And across the world, this has left a vacuum where people are looking for answers and looking for a way to improve the living standards of society. And I think this is an opportunity for those who believe in free markets and capitalist endeavor, in companies making profits, to make the argument for a responsible capitalism in the way that these awards tonight celebrate. That argument actually is one I think the public are ready and willing to hear. And what I find is when you sometimes make the case for companies having a greater regard for social responsibility, going beyond the minimum of the law in terms of the things they offer their employees, when you hear companies making the case for greater contributions to their local community, you quite often get other business people in the room saying, well, that's not really the business of business, and that's just going to get in the way of the bottom line and the dividend to the shareholder. And what has struck me in the 18 months or so I've been doing this job, but also the 5 years before that I was the Shadow Chancellor, in all the businesses I've been to around the country, and I've basically seen virtually everything being made in virtually every factory in this country, is one of the things that strikes me is the really successful businesses, the ones actually with the highest dividends and the best returns, are the ones that are the most responsible, the ones that do have the best motivated workforce and able to offer additional benefits to their employees, not because the law requires it, but because they're being a responsible employer. The companies that are most closely connected to their local communities are the ones that are the most profitable. And so I see absolutely no contradiction in the case for responsible capitalism. Successful capitalism is responsible. And in a way, these awards are proof of that. The awards you've given tonight, the awards when I came 2 years ago and you gave an award to GlaxoSmithKline, one of the really most successful British companies. I first got involved in politics 18 years ago when Douglas was, I think he was the Foreign Secretary at that point. And I was doing the photocopying for Douglas. And And I started working in politics then, at the beginning of the 1990s, and the most popular book at the time was this book called The End of History, which you'll all remember. And it wasn't, of course it was hubris, but it didn't seem totally irrational to believe that actually the argument on capitalism and free markets had been won. The great argument of my childhood had been won, the Berlin Wall had fallen, the Soviet Union had disintegrated, and no one was seriously making an argument that there was a better way to run a society than to have regulated free markets. It is remarkable that 18 years later, here I am as the finance minister of this country, engaged in that argument again about the need for free markets, the need for those markets to be properly regulated, the need for companies to be responsible, but also to be able to make a profit. I think that is going to be the big argument, the big philosophical argument in politics over the coming years. And I think the organisation that we celebrate here tonight first, and the awards that you give, are a great ambassador for the case for free markets that are responsible, that operate within a moral code for responsible capitalism, and I'm delighted to be here tonight to celebrate that. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much indeed. And indeed, we did say 2 years ago, when you gave an excellent speech again, that we wanted you back as Chancellor, and we are so grateful to you for coming. And who could have foreseen the task that you were going to take on? We knew it wouldn't be an easy one, but no Chancellor in modern history has had a more difficult task than you, George. And I know that I speak for everyone in this room in wishing you success in all your endeavours, because upon that success, the happiness of us all depends. So thank you very much indeed for coming. The Chancellor is going to make the formal presentations, then he does have to go on to another engagement because he does have one or two other things on his mind at the moment. So could I ask you to make the presentations, and then Lord Wolfe is going to tell us about the winners, and then they're going to have chance to speak briefly to us themselves. But has somebody got the prizes for the Chancellor to hand out? Mr. Bremens.
I don't get to hand things out much these days.
Mr. Franson. Thank you very, very much indeed, Chancellor, and we look forward to inviting you to do it again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Lord Wolfe.
Well, it is a great honour and a pleasure to tell you about the two prize winners. I've already indicated there was an exceptionally strong field, and these were the two outstanding prize winners who were eventually chosen. And if I may say so, they are ambassadors for capitalism, because in both cases, it's not a question of the responsible activities being a sideline of what these their companies do. It is the very essence of their corporate existence that they should be doing what makes them responsible capitalism. In some ways, they complement each other, as I will try and explain. And if I may take Mr. Bremens first of all, what he does is something I thought was sorely needed. I don't know whether you sometimes suffer, as I do, pangs of conscience when you're staying in a hotel and there's a little notice on the bath saying, please don't dispose of the towels, you use them again, because that will be in the interests of sustainable development. Now, Mr. Bremens and his company, Escova, actually produces something which takes the harmful effects of detergents out of detergents and replaces them with a harmless and entirely eco-friendly substance of plant origin. And so there's no need, as long as they go to the right company, to buy their products for me ever again to have this twinge of conscience of whether I should have a clean towel or not next morning. And I've asked him, and he assures me that's right. But it's not only that product, but it's many other products. And what he does is he and his company have the ingenuity and the ability to find substitutes which are sustainable. And so the whole business is based on sustainability. And he produces plant plastic, a form of plastic which is totally renewable, totally sustainable, and does the job just as well as plastic. Now, I think you can see why this is a remarkable product that his company produces. And he'll tell you more about it than I have, but it does indicate how a responsible attitude to making profits can make your company a real leader in corporate responsibility. And that, putting it shortly as I see it, is what he does. Now, the other prize winner, who you've heard, who was the winner of the Ralph Dahrendorf Prize, is rather different, but the essence of it is the same. And Mr. Franson was a young man of 19 who was at one time in Israel, having gone from Egypt to Israel because he was out of money, to earn some money. And he was washing dishes to make a living. And he, having traveled and lived extensively in Africa and other parts of the third world, thought there was ways of producing things which could attack the diseases from which the people of those countries suffered from. Malaria, chronic diarrhea, and so on. And to just take one example, his company has created a new type of mosquito net. I find it almost unbelievable, but they've sold something like 160 million of those mosquito nets, making a profit for his company and doing something very worthwhile at the same time. And each area where there's a disease which sucks the blood out of a country, as of course malaria can suck the blood out of all too many countries, he finds a product which he can introduce which enables those countries to do themselves, by purchasing these products, what they need to do to transform their opportunities in the world. Now, I don't think I need to go into the details, but I would and really encourage you to read about them, because they are extraordinary two individuals. And it is, I think, marvelous that there should be this very small company first that holds this competition, because unfortunately the media doesn't tell us the good news that there is out there, but it instead ignores that news and focuses on things which aren't, I'm afraid, so attractive. We need to hear about both. And first, and those who founded it, deserve a great compliment, congratulations on achieving what they have. So thank you very much, and coming to support the prize winning, because this is part of the initiative, that the achievements should be celebrated, and you help us to celebrate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. And now I'm going to ask our two winners, first of all Mr. Premens, and then Mr. Franz.
Your Excellencies, my Lord, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I was very happy to learn that we are helping to keep the environment in Downing Street a little bit cleaner. Very grateful to the Chancellor to have said that to us, but there is more than just washing up liquid. I just wanted to add that. I'm deeply honored and grateful to be here tonight to accept First Magazine's Responsible Capitalism Award on behalf of Ecover. Many thanks in the first place to First Magazine Chairman Rupert Goodman and his staff, and I also wish to thank the judging panel chaired by Lord Wolf for adding Ecover to a very impressive list of previous awardees. I think Lord Wolf also proved to be an excellent ambassador for our brand. I couldn't have said it any better, I think. When Ecover started more than 30 years ago, we would never have imagined being where we are today. From an artisan activity in the early 80s, Ecover has become a producer of sustainable household products and a leader in sustainable practices. Ecover is all about our customers. As a company, we deeply care about the needs of our consumers. We are passionate about improving people's lives by offering sustainable and healthy ways of living. Ecover is about innovation. To protect our future generations and our planet's natural resources, we innovate in renewable ingredients and products that avoid the depletion of nature's beauties, like clean air and water. Our innovation is driven by creativity and out-of-the-box thinking. Ecover is about sustainability. We are all about finding alternatives and creative ways to do more with less. From our products to our factories, over our management systems and relationships with our stakeholders and employees, we strive for sustainable excellence. Even if this goal may never be achieved, because we see sustainability as a journey and of continuous improvement and continuous change. I have been and am a very lucky man, not only for being with you here tonight on such a wonderful occasion, but because I may be here in the name of all my colleagues at Ecover. From here, I want to thank them, congratulate them for their passion, their commitment, and their achievements. Also, our shareholders believe in our approach and have agreed to broaden our commitment to a sustainable lifestyle by investing into new ventures covering water treatment and the distribution of sustainable products and services. My Excellencies, my Lords, ladies and gentlemen, by giving us this much appreciated award, you have told us that you believe in what we have done so far, and that with us, you're excited to see how further we will go. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And now, Mr. Franz.
Well, thank you very much, and I'd hope to also thank the Chancellor for the very kind introduction, but let me rush to certainly say how grateful I am to Lord Cormack and Lord Wolf and to the judges for this tremendous honor. And let me also say how humbled I am to be at the Marlborough House among such esteemed parliamentarians, statements, and leaders as yourselves, and of course to receive such an award. And it's a pleasure for me to be back in London. Like my company, Vestergaard Fransen, Britain has been a tremendous friend to the developing countries through the largesse of the government and through the extreme generosity of the British people. So as we are here gathered for the first awards, I want to just take the opportunity to use first as a theme to give you an insight in my company and what drives us. As was mentioned by Lord Wolf, we were the first to develop and take to global scale the long-lasting insecticidal mosquito net. This is unique because while it's safe for humans, it kills insects on impact and is now WHO's recommended prevention against malaria. This is a disease that is among the largest killers among children in the world. And beyond the human tragedy, nations simply cannot develop when malaria is rampaging through African villages, leaving survivors too sick to work and too sick to go to school. The good news is that through and together with our partners in the fight against malaria, and DFID certainly deserves honorable mentioning here, but together with our partners in the fight against malaria, we've gotten we've gotten several hundred millions of nets out. And we are seeing the results now. 3 years ago, more than 1 million children were dying due to malaria. Last year it was less than 800,000. So there's tremendous gains being made. The the World Malaria Report is being published for 2011 by World Health Organization next week, and I'm confident that it is cause for more optimism. This is a battle we can win. It's a battle that's far from over, but every time I get the opportunity for a little bit of limelight, I use that to remind all our partners how we need to stay focused. We're also very involved in neglected tropical diseases, and the greatest example here I want to give is together with our partners from the Carter Center, we developed a little drinking straw that when you drink water through it, it takes the guinea worm at larva stage out of unsafe drinking water. And for those of you who don't know what the guinea worm is, it gets into your body through unsafe drinking water. It grows to be up to about 1 meter long, and then it needs to get out. And it will come out through your thigh or your chest or your neck. And it gives you a very burning sensation. You want to yank it out, but you can't because then it breaks and whatever remains stays in your body, and that's when you die. So you need to take it out slowly. But because of the burning sensation, you want to linder it with water. And that's when the cycle repeats itself. And our drinking straw breaks that transmission cycle. In fact, it's so effective that there's only 4 countries left now to eradicate the guinea worm in. And in the next 4 years, I'm confident that we'll be done. This will be the second disease ever to be eradicated. It will be the first disease to be eradicated without the use of vaccine. And this is something to be truly passionate about because the world seems to have dropped the ball on disease eradication since smallpox was eradicated more than 40 years ago. Needless to say, none of these tools are of any use. None of our inventions are of any use unless they're out in the hands of the people who need it the most. And that's where I truly believe that the greatest innovation is. So as we gather here in these fine surroundings, there is also tonight about more than 4 million people gathered in their homes in Kenya's western province, and on the wall of every house is Life Straw Family, a water filter that we developed. And it is effectively taking all pathogens out of drinking water to make it safe. And how we got it out to 4 million people, and thereby making a dent in the global water crisis by empowering more than 4 million people in Kenya's western province with the basic human right of safe drinking water, was in collaboration with Kenya's Ministry of Health. Earlier this year, in May, we hired 8,000 people to go door to door to 900,000 houses and install this water filter, Life Straw Family, in every house. The water filter was free, the distribution was free, the education was free, the service repair and replacement is also free. I invested $30 million in this, and it's not charity, it's business. Because as we monitor how much water is being filtered and how much less water is being boiled as a result of being able to filter water, how much less firewood is being burned to boil water, we're tapping into the global carbon market. So now that we have, and this is absolutely, no, let me say, the important thing here is that we're doing so with an intervention that is dramatically reducing diarrhea and pneumonia, the two largest killers. Malaria is the third, the two largest killers of children under the age of 5. And this is absolutely sustainable. Not only because we've made a 10-year commitment, but because we now have audited the first 6 months of operation that shows that we've reduced 1.2 million tons of emission reduction. So we've demonstrated how this is a sustainable business and a development program and an environmental program. So being here tonight, I'm winding up now, I can see you're impatient. So being here tonight, I was only briefly a dishwasher. Was something that was somewhat unimaginable for me when I set out leaving my native Denmark as a 19-year-old for Nigeria, where I set up my first company. This was a couple of months after I washed dishes in Jerusalem. Set up my first company in Nigeria in the age of 19, full of ambition, woefully short and savvy. But the road from there to here has been gratifying. And I want to thank the first magazine, the first award, and the judges for honoring smaller enterprises alongside corporate giants. Because responsible innovation can come from all corners. And while we're just a few hundred employees, that makes us a welterweight. We can pack a heavy punch, and we're only just getting started. And on behalf of my colleagues, I'd like to accept the award for just that. Thank you.
Well, what more can one say? All I would like to stress is that we thought we had chosen two good winners. Now we know we have chosen two good winners. And the passion and commitment with which they both spoke, symbolizing their approach to capitalism, doing good and making money in the process and making societies prosperous and enabling people who wouldn't otherwise have the chance to progress. This is an inspiring story, and we're proud of them as judges, and I know that dear Ralph Darendorf would be particularly proud of the winner of his award, because he always said that from the SME sector come the great companies of the future. And he was so anxious that we should choose someone from that sector each year, and I'm delighted that his widow is here this evening. We've had a marvelous evening. We are extremely grateful, and could I say on behalf of First, grateful to you all for coming, grateful to you for the support that you give to this concept, this idea whose time has indeed come. Grateful to Douglas Hurd, to Harry Wolff, and of course we are particularly grateful this evening to the Secretary General for the Commonwealth. When we first thought of these awards, Emeka Anyuka was the Secretary General. He's here this evening, and he's been a dear friend and supporter and a judge throughout. He thought there was no better place than Marlborough House, the headquarters of the Commonwealth Secretariat.
Sorry, is there a doctor in the house?
Is there a doctor?
Is there a doctor? No.
We can get one from down there, yes. He was so anxious that the Commonwealth should be at the heart of this, and indeed it is. And we are so grateful the Secretary General has allowed us to continue to meet here. I can see there's a slight emergency. We will deal with that. Before I end the formal proceedings, once again, thank you. And do please remember that although we live in difficult times, and although the predictions may be dire, the future of the human race depends upon the successful practicing of responsible capitalism. And that is not an exaggeration. But don't let's be gloomy as we leave here. It's a time for celebration, to celebrate what we have heard about this evening and to prepare for the season of celebration. I wish you all the happiest of Christmases and all of us a better new year, and look forward to seeing you again in 2012. Thank you very much.
Nice to see you. Do you know my dog? You must go. He's standing right over there. So nice to see you. Hi, Dr.